We're going to stay with this story. Blake Sifton joins us now live from Tel Aviv with the latest update. Blake, good to have you with us. So we understand now that the ceasefire deal is back in full effect and on track. Take us through the latest developments on the ground. What are the sentiments also of Israel? Are you seeing a noticeable commitment to seeing this deal through?
That's right. The ceasefire, while delayed by 3 hours, almost 3 hours this morning, has come into effect at 11:15 a.m. local time. It was delayed because Israel said Hamas had not announced the names of the 3 hostages who would be released today, but it has come into effect. There has been no violations so far in the last few hours since it began. We understand that Israeli forces are beginning to move out of population centers, which is part of the agreement, and we understand that that aid is beginning to enter Gaza from the Kerem Shalom border crossing with Israel. At 4 p.m. This afternoon, local time, the crucial first step is the release of 3 female Israeli hostages who will be exchanged for 90 Palestinian prisoners. These are the Palestinian prisoners will be men and women released from the West Bank. Amongst the Israeli hostages being released today, there are 3 female civilians. They include Romy Gonen, who's a 24-year-old who was kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival and was shot in that attack, as well as Emily Damari, who's a 28-year-old British Israeli who was kidnapped from a kibbutz near Gaza, as well as 31-year-old Doron Steinbrecher, who was also taken from that same kibbutz. So far so good in the ceasefire, but the crucial first steps are still to be taken this afternoon.
And maybe, Blake, just further elaborate, what is Hamas getting in exchange of the hostages that they're releasing back to Israel?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat? I had a bit of a hard time hearing you.
Yes, Blake, I'm saying, what then is Hamas receiving in exchange of the hostages that they are releasing to Israel in this first initial release?
Yes, thank you. For this initial release of 3 female civilian hostages, in exchange, there will be a release of 90 Palestinian prisoners. These are children and women who were among the group of 737 so-called security prisoners who will be released as part of this deal. They're accused of security offenses. Among the rest of that group of 737 prisoners who will be released at later stages of this first phase of the deal, there will be prisoners who are serving life sentences in Israeli jails. They include members of Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Fatah's Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade. We understand that among that group, many of them will be sent into exile abroad rather than released into Gaza or the West Bank. Additionally, we understand that some 1,100 Palestinians who were arrested in Gaza by Israeli forces since October 8th will be released. So these are people who are not accused of involvement in the October 7th attack.
And then, Blake, do you have the actual time that this release is going to actually start commencing?
We expect it to start around 4 p.m. local time. However, in my experience with the first and only hostage and prisoner exchange, which happened in November 2023, these times have a tendency to slip. There's a lot of moving parts. It begins with Hamas handing these hostages over to the Red Cross in Gaza. They will then take them, we understand, to Israeli special forces also in Gaza. From there, the hostages will be taken to one of 3 centers the Israeli military has set up along the border for initial psychological and medical treatment. From there, they will then be taken by helicopter to a yet to be named hospital in Israel. And then only when those hostages have entered Israeli territory will the Palestinian prisoners be released from the prisons where they are being held. So there's a lot of steps that need to be taken, and in the previous hostage and prisoner release, a lot of those times did slip. So we'll see how it proceeds this evening.
And then, Blake, we're also getting reports that UN aid, as well as the World Food Programme aid trucks, started crossing into Gaza about 15 minutes ago. We discussed yesterday about, of course, the current logistical challenges due to the scale of damage to infrastructure. So are you hearing any special plans to expedite the movement of this very critical aid into Gaza?
as you say, there are obvious and clear issues to be overcome in terms of the damage to infrastructure and how this aid will be distributed. All we're hearing today so far is that 200 trucks are beginning to cross into Gaza from the Kerem Shalom border crossing with Israel, and the UN has said that an additional 4,000 trucks are standing by. Of course, aid has been being stockpiled in Egypt and in Jordan and is on the way. We understand from this initial shipments today, it includes food, flour, gas, essentials for life. So I think we're going to have to wait to see in the coming days how the distribution of aid actually works, how realistic this goal, this part of the ceasefire requirement, this 600 trucks per day, how realistic that is, given all of the challenges with damage to infrastructure in Gaza.